Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari. Yashoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana. Yashoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari. Yashoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana. Yashoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Shri Shri Radha Madhav Ki. Jai Shri Krishna Balaram Ji Ki. Nitai Gaura Premanande. So thank you, devotees, for coming together for an evening of hearing from Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Today I wanted to take a particular verse. I think last week you had already started looking at the Gita, and I think some very nice important verses were covered. Today I wanted to look at the preceding verses that are coming after text 20, and that will be texts 21 and 22. So let's look at these two verses from the Bhagavad Gita. Jai Shri Shri Radha Madhav Ki. And I think it will be very good for us to be able to study the verse and the purport, so that we can understand what Krishna is trying to say and what are the challenges that Arjuna is facing here. So let me just chant the verse and you can chant it with me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Thank you. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Arjuna Uvacha Senayor Ubayor Madhye Ratam Stapaya Mechuta Yavad Etani Riksheham Yuddu Kamanavastitan Kailmaya Saha Yodhyadvam Asmin Rana Samudyame. Arjuna Uvacha Senayor Ubayor Madhye Ratam Stapaya Mechuta Yavan Etani Riksheham Yudhu Kamanavastitan Kairmaya Saha Yudhvadhyam Asmin Rana Samudyame. Arjuna Uvacha Senayor Ubayor Madhye Ratam Stapaya Mechuta Yavanetani Riksheham Yuddu Kamanavastitan Kailmaya Saha Yudhyavam Asmin Rana Samudyame. Would anyone like to repeat, Prabhus? Arjuna Uvacha Kairmaya Saha Yodhavyam Asmin Rana Samudyame. Matajis? Arjuna Uvacha Kairmaya Saha Yodhavyam Rana Asmin Rana Samudyame. Arjuna Uvacha. Arjuna said, Senayo, of the armies, Ubayaho, both, Madhye, between, Ratam, the chariot, Stapaya, please keep, may, my, Achyuta, O infallible one, Yavat, as long as, Etan, all these, Nirikshe, may look upon, Aham, I, Yuddu Kaman, desiring to fight, Avastitan, arrayed on the battlefield, Kai, with whom, Maya, by me, Saha, together, Yodhavyam, have to fight, Asmin, in this, Rana, strive, Samudyame, in the attempt. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. Please repeat the translation. Arjuna said, O infallible one, please draw my chariot between the two armies, so that I may see those present here who desire to fight, and with whom I must contend in this great trial of arms. Let's hear the purport. Although Lord Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, out of his causeless mercy, he was engaged in the service of his friend. He never fails in his affection for his devotees, and thus he is addressed herein as infallible. As charioteer, he had to carry out the orders of Arjuna, and since he did not hesitate to do so, he is addressed as infallible. Although he had accepted the position of a charioteer for his devotee, his supreme position was not challenged. In all circumstances, he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Rishikesha, the Lord of the total senses. The relationship between the Lord and his servitor is very sweet and transcendental. The servitor is always ready to render service to the Lord, and similarly, the Lord is always seeking an opportunity to render some service to the devotee. He takes greater pleasure in his pure devotees assuming the advantageous position of ordering him than he does in being the giver of orders. Since he is master, everyone is under his orders, and no one is above him to order him. But when he finds that a pure devotee is ordering him, he obtains transcendental pleasure, although he is the infallible master in all circumstances. As a pure devotee of the Lord, Arjuna had no desire to fight with his cousins and brothers, but he was forced to come onto the battlefield by the obstinacy of Duryodhana, who was never agreeable to any peaceful negotiation. Therefore, he was very anxious to see who the leading persons present on the battlefield were. Although there was no question of a peacemaking endeavor on the battlefield, he wanted to see them again and to see how much they were bent upon demanding an unwanted war. Jai Granthara Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnanam Jana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. So we welcome all devotees today to hearing from the Gita. You will find that the Gita is one of the most practical scriptures that we can ever have the fortune of finding. And one of the great things about the Gita is that it is actually happening on a battlefield. And on a battlefield, it is very difficult for us sometimes to concentrate on the Lord. If normally we come to a temple which is so quiet like this to concentrate on Krishna. But if you tell someone to speak about Krishna in the middle of something that is going on, we find it very difficult to hear Krishna, isn't it? But the truth of the matter is, you all are coming for 1 hour maybe to hear very peacefully. But let's face the truth. The truth is, after this 1 hour, the rest of the days until we come back again are filled with battles. It's filled with battles of a different kind, no doubt. Nobody is having a war, but hopefully not. We are not having wars at home. But the truth of the matter is, we are always challenged in this material world. That is the challenge that we have to face. Nobody escapes these challenges. Bhagavatam, in Srimad Bhagavatam, it is so nicely stated by Vyasadeva. He says that in this material age of Kali Yuga, which is where we are living now, the greatest challenge that we have in this world is deterioration. This is something we should understand. It is deterioration that is the greatest challenge to us. Death is going to come for sure, but the cousin of death is deterioration. Everything that you think should be the way it is will completely change in due course of time. And it will not improve. Very often everything decreases. Eventually it will go. The human body is a very good example. For a while we may think it peaks, but eventually it must deteriorate. At some point you thought you could handle the whole world with good health. But as you get older, you realize, it's not so easy. And once you reach a certain age, it becomes tremendously difficult. You will realize that nothing you had when you were young actually stays with you. I see a lot of young children here. They will not stay young. Whether that's good for you or not, I leave it to you. But they're going to grow older, right? And as they grow older, they will face more challenges. And as we grow older, we will also face challenges. So everything is moving. But the beauty of the Bhagavad Gita is that the Bhagavad Gita remains unchanged. Bhagavad Gita by its nature cannot deteriorate. Why? Because the Bhagavad Gita is non-different from the speaker of the Gita, who is Krishna. This is a very important point. The message of the Gita is non-different from the speaker of the Gita. Sometimes people don't realize that the speaker of the Gita is as important as the message, because the message is only as pure as the person who's speaking it. Isn't it true? When a person speaks it with purity, the message always comes across pure. Therefore, Krishna is accepted in the Bhagavad Gita and in all Sastras as the master of all the three worlds, the master of inanimate and animate objects, and the source of all material and spiritual creations. Aham sarvasya prabhavo, mattaha sarvam pravartate. Krishna is also known in Ishopanishad as Ishavasyam idam sarvam. In other words, he is the origin of not only animate objects like you and me, but even inanimate objects. Nothing is coming without Krishna. And in Bhagavatam 2nd canto, 9th chapter, I think it is the 35th or 35th shloka, very nicely it is stated by Brahma speaking. After Brahma has chanted his prayers, it is actually Krishna who speaks to him. And Krishna tells him a very important point. He says, Rite ritam yat pratiyeta, na pratiyeta chatmani. Tad vidvan atmano mayam yatha baso yatha tamaha. That means that, O Brahma, please know one thing. This is a very important principle for us to know. Everything in this world, right, appears to have value. So many things in this world are valuable. But Krishna says, that thing which appears very valuable, but if it is not connected to me, if it is not used for me, then it actually has no value. So, devotees see the world from different lenses. Arjuna is a devotee. When he stepped on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, he was looking at the battle not like you and I would look at the battle. Who is going to win and who is going to lose. That's what we do when we see a battle. But Arjuna was a devotee, and therefore a devotee's perspective is very different. A devotee may look like anybody ordinary, but his view of the world is guided by the presence and the laws of the Lord. So Arjuna's view of the world is very different. And therefore he was guided by what Krishna told Brahma. And that is, in this material world, whatever is valuable, if it is not connected to Krishna, actually it is worthless. Why? Yatha baso yatha tamaha. It will eventually drag you down into the darkest of ignorance. And this is the problem. This was the difference between Duryodhana, right, and Arjuna. Duryodhana's view of the world was that he wanted everything for himself. Arjuna's view of the world was, why should I fight all my kinsmen? I don't need what they want or what they have, because Arjuna was very self-satisfied by nature. He was actually a sadhu in his heart, even though he was a great warrior. But he was very satisfied. And that is why in the beginning of this shloka and in the beginning of this chapter, which you are all now studying, you will realize that actually he was reluctant to fight the war. He did not want to fight the war. And later you will come to understand why he did not want to fight the war. Because by heart, by nature, a Vaishnava is very compassionate. He doesn't want to take the lives, nor does he want to disturb others. That is the mood of a devotee. That's why Prabhu's Matajis, when we live with each other, when we work with each other, one very important rule of the Gita we should apply in our lives is, don't become a source of distress or a source of disturbance to others. Don't. The moment you become a source of distress or disturbance to others, then you are like Duryodhana. But if you become a source of peace and pleasure for others and source of happiness, then you become like Arjuna. Arjuna's mood was, he did not want to become a source of distress. Therefore, that is actually the principle by which we understand who is a devotee and who is not a devotee. This is a very important point. So Arjuna wanted to ask Krishna to draw the chariot, his famous chariot. He wanted Krishna to draw the chariot between the two armies. And he wanted him to be there because he said, I want to see, Krishna, who is present on the battlefield. And I want to see those who are present on the battlefield, who wants to fight. And therefore, who must I fight against and who am I fighting with? That's what he wanted to see, right? So therefore, two things come up here. Even though Arjuna was ready to battle the enemies on the other side, still on the eve of battle, he he understood that actually this is not just a simple battle to win or to lose. As a devotee, he was more concerned about the reason for the battle. That is important. You all know before this that so many attempts were made by the Pandavas to try and resolve this matter without going to war. And not only did the Pandavas, Yudhishthir Maharaj try, and all the Pandavas and their kinsmen, they tried. Even Krishna went as a messenger. He went as a messenger, as a mediator, as an arbitrator. He actually went to see Duryodhana and to see all the Kauravas and even speak to Dhritarashtra and to tell him that going ahead with war is not wise. It is not wise at all. But even despite the good counsel of Krishna, who is none other than the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even then the obstinacy, it is nicely written here, the stubbornness of Duryodhana prevented him from preventing the war. This is a very important point. The famous point that Duryodhana will say to Krishna is that, Krishna, go back, right, and tell them I will not even part, right, even an inch or a quarter or a fraction, right, of the hair which is on my head. Even that much land I will not let go. That was the point that was given by Duryodhana. So you can understand how much Duryodhana wanted to hold on to what he thought belonged to him. But Arjuna had a completely different view of the world. Because Arjuna is a devotee, in his heart he thought everything that I have belongs to Krishna. And if everything belongs to Krishna, what am I fighting for? You see the point? He was thinking, if everything belongs to you, Krishna, then what is the purpose of this war? After all, in the next few verses, he will say that all these people who are gathered are all related to me. Some way or another, someone is an uncle, somebody is a nephew, someone is a friend, someone is a distant relative, but they're all related to me. So what is the purpose of fighting this war? So therefore, Duryodhana was just the opposite. For him, the purpose of fighting the war was to make sure everything that he thought he had would be preserved for him and that he would get more. That was his thinking. But Arjuna was a compassionate and renowned soul. He may have been a warrior, but actually in his heart he was very renounced. So this is an important point for us to understand. That is why in the very beginning of the war, Arjuna doesn't say, Krishna, let's just fight. If he told Krishna, let's just fight, bring me to the center of the battlefield and we fight, the big problem between you and me is we won't have any Bhagavad Gita. Isn't it? Think about it. No Bhagavad Gita. Because they'll just fight. It won't be a Gita. It'll be just, who killed who and who was shot by who, and that's what it would be. But because Arjuna was a devotee, he didn't want this to happen in this way. And therefore, Arjuna addresses Krishna very nicely here. He addresses Krishna as Achyuta. Achyuta. Every name of Krishna has a meaning. And we are all coming from Vedic background. So all of us are very accustomed to hearing the names of Krishna. But you must remember, when names of Krishna are used in Shastras, there is a reason for them to be used. Sometimes it is stated in, for example, sometimes Krishna would address Arjuna by a different name. He would call him Gudakesha. Gudakesha means one who doesn't sleep. It's not that Arjuna did not sleep, right? He was not an insomniac or anything. He slept very well actually, because he always felt protected by Krishna. But what Krishna meant when he addressed him as Gudakesha is that one who does not sleep. Sleep is a symptom of ignorance. And therefore he was telling Arjuna, wake up Arjuna to the illusion before you that all these people are your relatives. Actually, no one is a relative of anyone, because we are not this body, but we are actually spirit souls. So that's why he called him that way. So in the same way, when in the Bhagavad Gita, when you read, when you see Krishna being called differently apart from the name Krishna, there is a reason for it, right? And here the name Achyuta comes out. And Achyuta means one who is infallible. Infallible, when you say someone is fallible, it generally means, look, he's not perfect. That's what it means, right? But infallible means a person who's completely perfect, someone who can never make a mistake. Now, in this material world, Shastras tell us that all of us are considered to be fallible. Okay? In other words, we can fall. We can always make mistakes. No one here is perfect. Everybody will make some mistakes. And there are 4 mistakes, there are 4 defects that make us fallible. And these 4 defects are not present in Krishna, but they are present in us. The first defect is that we are always making mistakes. Isn't it true? At some point or another, there's some mistake we make. Of course, sometimes some people will always do something deliberately and tell you, Prabhu, sorry, it's a mistake, right? But generally speaking, everybody makes mistakes. Children make mistakes, adults make mistakes, everyone makes mistakes. So mistake is part of living here. But Krishna never makes a mistake. There's never been a plan of Krishna which was just a mistake. Never. Sometimes people say, why did Krishna do that? Why didn't Krishna do this? But we know from Shastras that for every single action that Krishna has put in motion, there is always a plan. Always a plan. You and I may plan, but our plan is full of mistakes. But Krishna's plan is perfect. The second thing that's very important is everyone has what we call a cheating propensity. This is very important. Cheating propensity means if I can do it the straight way, okay, good. But if I can take advantage of something for myself, then I'll take advantage of it. In other words, we have a cheating tendency to benefit ourselves. Self-interest is always the first law for us. Okay, what is in it for me? I must benefit something, you know. Like supposing I'm invited to take class. I may think in my mind, what is the benefit for me? You know, am I going to get paid? You know, am I going to get something? Am I going to get name and fame? So the tendency is there. If someone asks you, Prabhu, please do a service, you can either say, I will do whatever service to please Krishna, or somewhere along the line you start thinking, yeah, I'm doing the service, but they should appreciate me. They should see how nicely I'm doing something. This is cheating propensity. It's not just cheating in the sense of cheating, but you want something which actually doesn't belong to you. The third tendency that happens is all our senses are imperfect. This, if you look around, it is really true. Prabhupada gave a very simple example. Take the example of the eyes. The eyes may appear very perfect in so many ways, but you shut the lights off in a room, make it completely dark, and your eyes are useless. At least the human eyes are useless. It's very difficult. We cannot really see everything. Our senses by nature are imperfect. They're not so perfect. Some of us can hear very well, but after a while, you can't hear. Some of us can see, after a while we can't see. Some can walk, after a while we can't walk. Some of us can smell, after a while we can't smell. All our senses will deteriorate because our senses are imperfect. Imperfect. And the last defect is, all of these three defects lead to the fourth defect. And that is, we're always constantly in a state of illusion. Illusion. And what is the greatest illusion? The greatest illusion is to think that everything here belongs to us and it is permanent. That is the greatest illusion. You know, Yudhishthira Maharaj in Mahabharata was asked, what is the most wonderful thing in the world, isn't it? And he said the most wonderful thing in the world is that every day someone is dying, but those who are living think they will live forever. That is the most wonderful thing in the world. And it is true. We always think, when we go for somebody's funeral, we think, so sad he died. And then we talk to everyone, I'm so sorry and all that. But very seldom we leave thinking, I could be next. And therefore, what am I doing about my life? We don't think that way. We think everybody else in the room will die, I'll die the day after. After everybody. That's generally the subconscious way of thinking. It won't happen to me, it won't happen to me. Right? So this is illusion. This is illusion. And the greatest illusion of that is that we think we are this body. But we are not. We are more than this body. We are spirit souls. So Krishna is called by Arjuna as Achyuta, because Prabhupada writes in the purport that he is infallible. For Krishna, there is no illusion. In fact, when we come to Krishna, the illusion is dispelled. See how nice. When we come to Krishna, all illusion is dispelled. We don't have to worry about it. Krishna says so nicely later. Where does he say? I think he says it in 1857 of Bhagavad Gita, much later, but it's a very practical point. He tells Arjuna, Chetasaha sarva karmani, mayi sanyasa mat paraha, buddhi yogam upashritya, mat chitta satatam yoga. He says very nicely to Arjuna, Arjuna, in all your activities, you just depend upon me. Why? Because Krishna will never let you down. He is infallible. He will never make a mistake. He will never be illusioned. His senses are perfect. And he has no cheating propensity because he is the well-wisher of every living entity. See the opposite? We are all the opposite of that. And that's why only one personality in all the universes, spiritual and material, is infallible, and that is Krishna. Only one person can be called Achyuta, and that is Krishna. So when Arjuna turned to Krishna and said, Krishna, he called him as Achyuta, he was actually starting to depend on Krishna. Because by this time, he was having doubts now about the war. Should I fight? Should I not fight? Let me see who I'm fighting. These are all doubts that are coming into the mind. And therefore, he wanted an anchor, someone who would be so firm, so much like a rock, that he can depend on that person. And that is why only Achyuta is dependable. And those who follow Krishna 100%, they also assume that quality of being 100% dependable. They are the advanced pure devotees of the Lord. So that's why Krishna says in 1857, Chetasaha sarva karmani, mayi sannyasa madparaha. He tells Arjuna, Arjuna, whatever activities you do, you just depend on me. Just depend on me and work always under my protection. This is the most practical thing that you can take back today, Prabhu Mataji's. What is our relationship with Krishna? Our relationship with Krishna is someone whom we can always depend on. In your own lives, you have tried to depend on so many people, isn't it? Looking at you all shaking your heads like that, I know you have tried to depend on so many people. Sometimes we depend on people whom we think are so great that they will be there for us, they will take care of us. But eventually we realize because of their 4 defects, they will cheat us, they will make use of us, or they will make mistakes, or with their imperfect senses, they will view a situation in a very different way. And most of all, at the end of the day, they will become disillusioned. How to depend on that? It's very difficult. Because in this material world, all of us, every living entity, even up to the devatas like Brahma, everyone is subject to 3 things. Karma, guna, and kala. No one can escape this. No one can escape time. No one can escape their karmas. And nobody can escape the gunas, the qualities of the material modes of nature. The only person out of it is Krishna. Imagine 2 fishes are caught in a net. And one fish tells the other fish, don't worry, I will save you. You will laugh at that fish. Man, you're also caught in the net. And you're telling me that you will be saving me. How can you? So that's why Arjuna is calling Krishna Achyuta. Because Krishna is infallible. He will never fall, neither will he fail you. He is infallible, and if I may use a slight change of that, he is also unfailable. You cannot fail with Krishna because he doesn't fall. Those who are with Krishna, they don't fall and they don't fail. And even if we are falling and failing, we turn to Krishna. And Krishna will save our fall and he will save us from the failure. This is Krishna. And that is why Arjuna turned to Krishna. And that's why that word is being used here. You see the point? So whenever you study Gita, first point I must request you is, don't be in a hurry to finish the Gita. We are often in the hurry, I have to finish the Gita. It's a quota. It's like, I need a certificate, I need to finish something. It's a material tendency. Shastras are not meant to be completed in the way we complete courses. Please don't do that. The Bhagavad Gita is a perfect scripture. It is as infallible as Krishna. It will not fall, it will not fail. Therefore, what you have to do is, every time you study one shloka of the Gita, study it well. Absorb what is stated by Krishna. It may take years to study the Gita, but that is what you are here for a lifetime of study. What are you going to do after you finish studying the Gita? Okay, I'm a Sastri. What's the point of being a Sastri? After you study the Gita, you have to apply the Gita. And that means the study must be ongoing, right? It is stated in our Shastras, even if you perfect one verse of the Gita that you have studied, if you perfect it in your life, it means you have studied the whole Gita. And you will go back to Krishna. But if you have studied the whole Gita and you cannot understand the purport of the Gita, which is to accept Krishna as supreme, then you have missed everything. In our Shastras, there's this nice story. There was this Brahmana. He's very expert at studying the Gita. He knew it inside out. And always he'll be quoting shlokas here and there, here and there. And then there was this young girl who would bring him milk. Her name was Lakshmi. And she would cross the river from the other side of the village and bring milk for him on this side of the village. So sometimes what happens is she had to wait for the boatman. And the boatman would be late. And so when the boatman was late, she would come a little late. And the Brahmana would get very upset. He would say, what's wrong with you, Lakshmi? Why are you late? Don't you know that it's important to be punctual? You are serving me, that kind of thing. He would get very upset. So then Lakshmi thought, how am I going to come early? I have to depend on the boatman. That's what Krishna is telling in that verse, Chetasaha sarva karmani, just depend on me. Because whenever you depend on someone else, you find that very often you become disappointed. Dependence on anything that is in this material world which is fallible leads to disappointment. Supposing you say, I want to go for a movie with your friend, and the movie is very exciting, but going with the friend is more exciting, isn't it? And last minute your friend cancels on you. You may watch the movie, but half the fun is gone because the friend is not there. This is what happens to us in our life. We get married and we think the husband will take care of us. We get married, we think the wives will take care of us. We get married, and then after we have children, we think the children will be perfect, they will take care of us, they'll be ideal children. But you and I know it doesn't happen that way. Very often we ourselves are not ideal, what to speak of others. Therefore, what happened here was, Lakshmi was asking this Brahmana, what do I do? And he said, your fault is you are depending on the boatman and you're not depending on Krishna. So then she said, so what should I do? Then he said, Krishna is the source of all our power. And if you have faith in him, everything will be fine. So next time you pray to Krishna, and if you pray to Krishna strong enough, you'll be able to walk across the river and come here on time. Don't depend on the boatman. Of course, he was a great Sastri, and he was quoting the shlokas, and he went to sleep. Next morning, Lakshmi was there 5 minutes before the usual time. He said, Lakshmi, the boatman came early. She said, no, I followed your advice. And he said, what do you mean? You told me to depend on Krishna. So I depended on Krishna and I walked across the river. And now the Pandit and the Brahmana said, listen. I gave you all that lecture to just boost your feelings, your faith. But it doesn't happen that way. Shlokas are there, but it doesn't happen that way. And she said, but you just told me, and I put all my faith in it, and it happened. And so then he said, you try walking now and let me see. And Lakshmi kept Krishna's name going, and she chanted, and she was able to cross the river. The boatman, the Brahmana was very, 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 very surprised. He said, how did you do this? And she said, because of your mercy. She said, you do it, master, because you have the faith. You told me to have the faith. You must have great faith. You do it. So now he began to think, but I don't have so much faith. I was just chanting the Gita, talking to you about the Gita, but I didn't think it would really happen. Let me try. So he started walking 1 step. 2 steps, he started thinking of his new silken dhoti. And he thought, what if my dhoti becomes wet? And in thinking that way, he went straight into the water. The story is very simple, but the point is very deep. The point is, we may speak so much about the Gita, but until we act on the Gita, actually it has no value to us. It'll just be something you come and I come, we hear and we go back. But we have to act on it. And for us to act on it, we have to deeply study it. Not just quote it, not just rush through it. So there is no rush to study the Gita. Study it, learn it, but practice it. That is very important. That's what Arjuna was doing. He wasn't in a hurry to fight. He was more concerned about all these thoughts that he had, and he wanted to turn to Krishna for guidance. And that is why he starts this journey by calling him Achyuta. You are someone I can depend on. Please tell me now what is to be done. That's what he will do in a few verses down. So remember one thing, Chetasaha sarva karmani. In all your activities, sarva karmani, all your activities, Chetasaha means consciousness. Mayi sannyasa marparaha. You renounce everything and depend on me. And if you depend on me, buddhi yogam upashritya. Use your intelligence and engage it on me. And use your devotional service. And last point is very important. Mat chitta satatam bhava. Satatam means always. And be conscious of me. Be always conscious of me. This is why we are studying the Gita. So that we will become conscious of Krishna. The more we are conscious of Krishna, the less we are conscious of fallibility. And the more we are connected to Krishna. More we remember Krishna, the more we connect to Krishna. The more we connect to Krishna, the more we are under Krishna's shelter. The more we are under Krishna's shelter, the more we are in touch with his infallible nature. Then we become guided. That is how it should be. And that is why he's asking this question. Now there are 2 other points which are very important in the shloka, the name Achyuta. And Prabhupada brings it up very beautifully. Let me read it to you. Although Lord Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, out of his causeless mercy, he was engaged in the service of his friend. Think about it. Just think, how great is Krishna that he should actually come as a charioteer. He is the person who is so powerful. Bhagavatam tells us he's so powerful that actually nobody can come close to Krishna. Krishna is the source of all power. As Narsingadev, he easily defeated Hiranyakashipu. He could defeat anyone. You know, one time Indra was very upset with Garuda because Garuda had taken Amrit from the heavenly planets. And Indra took his most strongest weapon, the thunderbolt, and he shot it at Garuda. And the moment the thunderbolt hit Garuda, it was like a garland hitting an elephant. You know, when you throw a garland at an elephant doesn't even realize it's a garland. Forget elephants, even any one of you. If I took my garland and I threw it at anyone, which I won't, but if I did that, you won't feel it actually. It's nothing, it's just a garland actually. It's not a big deal. But Indra's weapon was so powerful. And then Indra went up to Garuda and said, Garuda, just how strong are you? And Garuda then said, with the tip of one of my feathers, if I take from my feather, there are many small feathers. If I take one of that feather and on that tip, I can support the entire three planetary systems. The entire three planetary systems with one morsel or one part of my feather. And all this power I'm getting is a fraction of 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 the power of the Supreme Personality of Godhead whom I serve. This is in Garuda Puran. This is the greatness of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And yet, he was just a humble charioteer. You all know what happens when you become a charioteer in a war, isn't it? It's not, the war is so fast, it's not that Arjuna can tell Krishna, Krishna, Supreme Personality of Godhead, please turn right. Oh Krishna, great power of the world, please turn left. It won't be like that. Arjuna wouldn't have time. And therefore, the charioteer, right, must be prepared to be kicked on his right shoulder or kicked on his left shoulder or kicked in between his shoulder blades to tell him to go right, left or center. That's how it is. And if there was a break, he would literally pull the charioteer and the charioteer would pull the chariot. That's how it was done. So Krishna subjected himself to that kind of a treatment on the battlefield. That kind of a treatment. And on top of that, part of the job scope of a charioteer is he will take half the arrows meant for his master, because half of them will be shooting here and there. Some will find the master. The rest will find the charioteer. So in the evening, while Arjuna was taking out so many arrows, Krishna had to take out more arrows from himself because not everybody was a good shot. Most of them were shooting Krishna actually. And yet he endured. He would endure everything just for his love of his devotee. Because Arjuna asked him, please be my charioteer, because he gave that honor to him, he took it. And Prabhupada says, this is the causeless mercy that Krishna has, because he wanted to be engaged in the service for his friends. And this is where the term Achyuta becomes important. Prabhupada says Krishna is infallible because he never fails you in his affection. You and I may fail each other at some point. We say we love someone very much. But that love in this world is so conditional. I love you until you're nice to me. If you're not nice to me, after a while, we just drift apart. If you don't take care of me, I don't love you so much. Things are like that. But Krishna never did that. Krishna never fails in his affection for his devotees. Never fails. If he's a charioteer, Krishna will be the best charioteer. If he is going to be a father figure for you, he'll be the best father. If Krishna is a little child, like he was to Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda Mata, he was the perfect child. In the morning, before Nanda Maharaj went to do his duties, Krishna would pick up his slippers. They were larger than his head because he was very small. And he would put the slippers on his head and bring it to Nanda Maharaj. Bring it to Nanda Maharaj. When Devaki Mata and Vasudev saw Krishna after many years, Krishna and Balaram fell at their lotus feet and they said, please forgive us, because as children we were not there for you. We had to leave for Vrindavan and we were not there for you, and we feel that we have failed you. This is the mood of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Just imagine. In Srimad Bhagavatam 1:16-16, there's a very nice shloka that tells us the greatness of Krishna in his loving affairs, loving affection for devotees. Saratya para sadasevata sakya dhautya Virasananugamanastavana pranamam Snigdeshu pandu sujagat pranatim cha Vishnu Bhaktim karoti nipates charanara. The meaning is very nice. Maharaj Parikshit was hearing about the causeless mercy of Krishna. Krishna is universally obeyed, and yet he rendered all kinds of services to the malleable sons of Pandu. The word malleable is very important. When something is malleable, that means you can mold it into whatever you want. So the Pandavas, like Arjuna, their nature is to be malleable. Whatever Krishna wants, they are ready to do. And therefore they were considered malleable. But now this verse tells us, Krishna was so kind to the devotees, especially the Pandavas, that he accepted all kinds of duties. He was a driver, chariot driver. He was the president of the Rajasuya assembly, where, because being president and convening it as president, he established Yudhishthir Maharaj as the emperor of the world. Then the verse tells us he was a messenger. Remember earlier we said, like a third-rate person, he went as a messenger. A messenger in Sastras or in those times was considered like a peon, So he was nothing actually, just a messenger. Then he was a friend. And then he was a night watchman even. Night watchman. Do you know in the Mahabharata war, every night when Arjuna was sleeping, Krishna would actually stand there with his sword raised. And he would take the night shift to make sure that no one would disturb Arjuna and Arjuna would sleep peacefully. Imagine that. This is the greatness of Krishna. And that is why in this shloka, Prabhupada says, Krishna is accepted to be infallible because he never lets down his devotees. So we often think of infallibility as someone who is so powerful. But Prabhupada is giving us a different understanding of infallibility. Infallibility means completely dependable. Someone who will never let you down. This is the greatness of Krishna. And why? Because for his devotee, he is willing to do anything. Anything. Krishna is willing to sacrifice anything. On the battlefield, even though he took a vow not to pick up a weapon, he picked up the chariot wheel just to stop Bhishma Dev from attacking Arjuna. And he did that because he wanted to save, Arjuna. And he was prepared, never mind if I break my promise, but I will never break the promise of protecting my devotee. So this is why Krishna is known as the great Achyuta. And that's why we must understand one thing. Krishna takes greater pleasure in actually assuming the advantageous position of being ordered by his devotees. He doesn't want to give orders. In Vrindavan, Krishna was being ordered by the cowherd men, ordered by the cowherd boys, bullied by the gopis, bullied very often by Srimati Radharani. And in Bhagavatam, Krishna took the role of a menial servant so many times. Sudama came with nothing and wanted to see Krishna. And yet Krishna was so kind to him that he treated him just like a friend. He made Sudama sit on the same throne that he was seated. And he washed Sudama's feet. And he washed his feet and put sandalwood on him. This is how Krishna treats devotees. Forget devotees. What about Putana the demon? Putana came to suck the very life out of Krishna. But instead of killing her, he took her life air, but he gave her liberation. He made her into a Dhatri, a nurse. Why? Because she just came pretending to be a devotee. So even if you pretend to be a devotee, Krishna gives you concession. How much more if you're trying to be a devotee? And how much more when you become a devotee? And how much more when you accept that he is infallible and we must completely depend upon him. This is the meaning of infallibility. Jai Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki, Jai Shla Prabhupada ki, Jai Shla Gurudev ki, Jai Gaura Premanande. Are there any questions? Are there any comments, realizations? I think it's a good time for me to hear them. I have a mic here, not sure if you need it. Yes, Vibhav Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Thank you very much.
Krishna.
Very, very beautiful class. Prabhu, my question is, you spoke about Prabhupada's statement here when he says that Krishna never fails his devotee. So, during good times, when Krishna is offering benedictions, it's very easy to understand for the sadhaka. But sometimes, even for Arjuna, when Abhimanyu is killed, even though Krishna was present on the battlefield, such tough challenges and tough times, how does one sadhaka see this? Because it's very easy when the blessings are coming in form of some assets or material benediction, very easy. But sometimes when sadhaka is faced with certain tough challenges, how does one see it in a very in ways from Krishna's perspective?
Yes, Prabhu.
So that we develop taste for bhakti doesn't go down.
Yes, Prabhu.
And we don't lose faith in Krishna.
Or we don't lose faith in Krishna. Yeah. Because that can happen actually, isn't it, Prabhu? Very quickly. So this point is very important. And there is a shloka that actually helps us with this. It's in the 10th canto, 14th chapter, 8th verse. It is one of the prayers of Brahma. And it's a very important verse. Tate nukampam sushamikshmano Bunjana evatmakritam vipakam Hridvagvapurbir vidadan namaste Jivetayo mukti padaseda dhaya bhav. 10:14:8, I believe. It's a very important verse. The translation is also very important. My dear Lord, one who earnestly waits for you to bestow your causeless mercy upon him, all the time and all the while patiently suffering the reactions of his past misdeed, and offering you respectful obeisances with his heart, his words, and his body. Such a devotee becomes eligible for liberation, and he becomes the heir to the rightful claim of the kingdom of God. So what this shloka tells us, Vibhav Prabhu, which you're very familiar with, but is very helpful for everyone, is that when a devotee is placed in a situation of trial, when a devotee finds that there is so much of impediments and difficulties, not just to himself, but to his surroundings and even his loved ones, the devotee does not see it as a failing of Krishna. He sees it as the results of his own previous actions and reactions. The law of karma is an operating principle in this material world. And sometimes when we take up devotional service, we think that the law of karma will not affect us. But that is not true. Because even while we are taking up devotional service, there is always the element of our previous karmas. There's the element of our constant actions that we are taking now, and there will be consequences to them. Great devotees of the Lord are not put through the cycle of karma, but they become instruments of the Lord, like Arjuna did. When Arjuna was lamenting the pain of losing Abhimanyu, and later he would lament the losing of Ghatotkacha also, Krishna was actually smiling in the camp, especially when Ghatotkacha was killed. And Arjuna went up to him and said, "How could you smile when such a terrible thing has happened?" And Krishna said, "Ghatotkacha was born for this one purpose. He was born to destroy half the army of the Kauravas that evening, and he was born to destroy that one Shakti weapon that was employed against him and which cannot be employed against you. Ghatotkacha served his purpose in life. So what is there for you and me to lament?" Therefore, when devotees use their life in Krishna's service, even though it may appear like they're going through difficulty, but they accept the fact that they are instruments, nimitta matra. They are instruments in the service of the Lord. Parikshit Maharaj was doomed, in one sense, to be cursed to die in 7 days, even though he was faultless in many senses. But he said, this is Krishna coming in the form of the Brahmana's curse, because he knew that if I continue to remain as a devotee, as a king, I would become so attached to the kingdom that I would not remember Krishna the way I'm remembering him now. So it is actually a shift in the perspective and attitude. When a devotee who's evolved goes through difficulty, They see the hand of Krishna and they say that this is for our purification. Instead of moaning and groaning about it, instead of being so sad about it and becoming dragged into it, we rather increase our devotional service. Increase our service using our mind, our body, Ridvag Vapurbir, and continue our devotional service to Krishna. And that will give us peace. So therefore, this verse tells us one just has to be alive in Krishna consciousness. You know, when you are in the water and nobody's coming, you have to remain alive, isn't it? Until rescue comes. Keep your head above the water. That's all. That's all you have to do. Another way of putting it is very interesting. If you want all the riches or the wealth that your father has, then you only have to do one thing. You have to keep living. And when father dies, everything becomes yours. Therefore, we must be always living in Krishna consciousness and see the hand of Krishna. So devotees may go through difficult times, but this is a time when they go through difficult times, they must take the association of devotees. Because devotees can explain this point to them. They can take a shloka. They can tell them this is given by Krishna. They can chant with them, pray with them, help them through the difficult time. And all the time keep them focused on remembering Krishna. That is how we will get through difficult times, Prabhu. Is that all right, Prabhuji? Thank you. Vishal Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you for allowing me class.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you.
I have two questions.
Yes.
In the beginning of the class, you mentioned that we should not be the cause of pain and distress to others. So my question is, in the association of devotees, how we stay alert and aware about our own behavior, that we are not causing distress and pain
Yes.
to other devotees,
Yes.
and what we should integrate in our daily life, which help us to not act in that way.
Okay.
So this.
First, I take the first question because I'll forget after you go to second question. The first question is, the best way for us to make sure that we behave in such a way that we don't become a source of distress to others or burden to others is, first of all, good sadhana. If our sadhana is good, if our spiritual daily practice is good, that sadhana protects our behavior. It also enlivens us to become more perfect in our behavior as devotees. The second thing that good spiritual practice does, Prabhu, it reveals to us defects about ourselves. It's a very important point. We become more aware and more humble, and we are more ready to take advice from others who see that, Prabhu, this is not correct. Mataji, you should not do this. Otherwise, our pride comes in the way and we cannot improve. And the third thing that's very important is to always have what we call a devotee that we can look up to, a siksha. Someone whom we can, a mentor, someone whom we are willing to listen to and we are ready to do something about. Without that, it becomes very difficult to progress. Because sometimes the problem is we can't see ourselves and we think we are perfect. Dhoti, kurta, tilak, I'm perfect. But our behavior may not be that way. So that must be there, Prabhu. Second question.
Second question is, how to stay aware daily that Krishna loves us so much?
I think the only way to understand or to accept that Krishna actually cares so much for us is to actually constantly be in touch with Shastra and chanting of the holy name. You see, today we read this shloka, and this shloka really tells us how kind Krishna is to us and how he's infallible, and we should always be in touch with him. We always think infallible means Achyuta is very far away, he's very powerful. But Prabhupada says infallible means he's completely dependable, because he's like a friend who's always with us. He never lets us go. I never understood the meaning of infallibility until I read today. Then only I came to understand this. So how will I know these things? Until I read. So studying the scriptures, that's why these programs are being organized. So that whenever they're organized, we have a chance to be in touch with Krishna. And apart from the programs, every one of you should go home with your Gitas. And you should read Gita daily. Even if you don't understand it, read it. As you come to read it, Krishna reveals. And still you don't understand, you sit with devotees whom you know and read. Maybe in the evening you sit down and read. You can go on Zoom today, you can have a call. You know, in many parts of Singapore, we do what we call the R&R program. R&R, is rest and recreation. But in the spiritual world, it's read and relish. So we have devotees who are nearby each other at work. Lunchtime they meet each other, they read 2-3 shlokas, they discuss and they go back to work. Sometimes they pick up the phone and they discuss one shloka, 15 minutes and they're happy. Every day, somewhere, devotees are doing read and relish. And that is the way, Prabhu, to constantly remind ourselves of the mercy of Krishna. And you cannot remember the mercy of Krishna without getting the mercy of devotees. And that's why we have programs like this. The kindness of the devotees will give us encouragement that if the devotees are so kind, how much more must be Krishna, who is the source of all their kindness. Is that okay, Prabhu? Thank you. Thank you very much, Prabhus and Matajis. Very happy to be here. And I thank the devotees who have organized this. It's so nice to be back here in Arsakesri temple. And even though for me it's like one end of the other side of the world because I'm living in Badog, but still, it's just Singapore. How far can it be? So I'm just happy to be here. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to read the Gita. Please be in touch with each other and help each other to grow your devotional service. Don't come for the programs because you have to come. Come for the programs because it is good for your soul and it is good for all your family. And what do we lose? 1-2 hours on a Sunday, nobody's going to die, right? And even if you die, it's a good place. At least you remember Krishna and go. What is the problem? Both ways you don't lose anything, isn't it? So can we end with 5 minutes of kirtan, Prabhu? Are we okay? Let's do kirtan and then I'll leave it to everyone else to run the program. Let's chant Krishna's names. Jaya Radha Ramana Hari Bol. 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 I can't hear you. Jaya Radha Ramana Hari Bol. 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 Somebody's Harakrishna is on. Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Jaya Radha Ramana Hari Bol. 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 Hari Bol. Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Hari Bol. Jaya Radha Ramana Hari Bol. Jaya Radha Ramana Hari Bol. Hari Bol, Jaya Radha Ramana Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hari Bol. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hari Hari. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hari Bol. Jai Radha Mama. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hari Hari, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hari Bol. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. You're very soft. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Bol. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Jaya Gopal Jaya Jaya Radha Ramana Hari Govinda Jaya Jaya Govinda Jaya Jaya Gopal Jaya Jaya Govinda Jaya Jaya Gopal Jaya Jaya Radha Ramana Hari Govinda Jaya Jaya Radha Ramana Hari Govinda Jaya 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 Radha Ramana Hari Bo Jaya Radha Ramana Hari Bo Jai Shri Shri Radha Raman Ji Ki Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare. Hare Bol. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev. Jai Shri Harinam Sankirtan Hare Krishna Mahamantra Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavad Gita Nitai Gaura So I wish you the best in your journey to not only read, but relish Bhagavad Gita. Taste it. That would be good. Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji, for the very enlightening class. That way, Devakinandan Prabhu is no stranger for most of us.